Hello and welcome back to podcast number 2. We are now called Screen Spice. My name is Nick Farinola and I'm joined with my co-host Joe Ahart.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about some general news in the movie and gaming industry, and then Joe's going to kind of lead our discussion for today. It's going to be a special podcast, and we're going to be releasing both podcast number 1 and podcast number 2 on YouTube tonight. Okay, so to start off, Joe, with our general news, Starfield, which is Bethesda's project that they just recently revealed at E3. It's going to be, apparently it's coming out in 2019 for next-gen consoles. It's going to be before the Elder Scrolls 6. But basically, we got a little bit more of information. The official Twitter and Facebook accounts were launched this week. And a lot of people started following that, which is interesting. But yeah, not too much about that. Equalizer 2 just came out today. And it was receiving some lukewarm, mediocre kind of reviews, which is expected. It's a sequel to an already decent action movie directed by Antoine Fuqua, who also did Olympus Has Fallen with Gerard Butler, if you saw that. So yeah, I mean, they're fun action movies, but I personally see them as Netflix movies that you watch for free.
Nothing spectacular.
Okay, so another big thing was PT, which the playable teaser for Silent Hills, which Guillermo del Toro, along with Norman Reedus and some other big names, were involved with the Silent Hills game that unfortunately was canceled about 2 years ago, which was a real
bummer.
So there was this guy who was 17 years old. I forget his name, but he basically was making a PC remake that was almost complete, and Konami, due to legal issues, had to shut it down. But on the bright side, the Konami offered the 17-year-old guy an internship along with free merchant games. So that's kind of a plus, which hopefully if he, gets an internship and then as time goes on, he eventually works there, he can be a lead designer on something close to that.
Yeah, it's really funny because they mentioned how Konami actually loved the remake. They thought it was really well done. They just obviously for legal reasons had to shut it down.
Yeah.
And I forget what the kid's name was who worked on it,
Right.
but he actually mentioned he was saying I'm not too upset. I'm upset that it had to get shut down, but this is a big opportunity for me that I think is a better kind of a blessing in disguise almost.
Do you think he was paid to say that? Do you think it was half and half? Because it felt, when I was reading, I read the direct quote too, and it seemed a little bit corporate.
I'm sure, yeah.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
sure there was some kind of hey, don't badmouth us. We're giving you an internship, so don't make us look bad.
Understandable. I would do the same thing.
But I mean, it's kind of the opposite of how Kojima handled it with PT. Just how that was a complete disaster, and how he literally badmouthed Konami and told them they're terrible. So
yeah. So I mean. Allison Road, which was a game, it's kind of I don't want to say a spin-off, but it's kind of a spiritual successor to the playable teaser that is in development. It got canceled and then 1 year, and then it got revived again, so it's still. I don't know if you saw the gameplay for it, but it actually looked really, really cool. It's called Allison's Road. I'd check it out. But anyway, moving on. So a new game came out this week that's creating some buzz called Mother Gunship. So basically, it's supposed to be a spiritual successor to the indie roguelike FPS Tower of Guns, and it's basically a homage to 90s action games that balances a number of clever mechanics throughout its pulse-pounding jaunt through the inner depths of alien ships. So you mentioned that you saw some of it. What are your thoughts on it?
So I saw it's pretty much kind of a bullet hell kind of gameplay style, and it reminded me a lot of Doom 2016. And just how pretty much I feel a lot of games are kind of going back, or a lot of first-person shooters rather, are going back to less kind of cover-based and more kind of strafing, running around, constant movement.
Right.
Which personally I'm a fan of. I thought Doom was fantastic. It took me a while to get used to, but once you get the hang of kind of playing a game like that, it's a blast.
Yeah, it really is.
And I'm happy that games are starting to go back to that, because I think one thing I especially noticed about this game was the addition of the triple jump. So when you're in these alien corridors and alien ships, there's a ton of vertical options as well as horizontal. So I love when level design adds a lot of verticality in it.
Right.
And I think only a fast-paced kind of constant movement game can do that. I don't think a cover shooter
Gears
works
of War style,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Something that's cool about Mother Gunship, it's kind of its staple, I guess, is kind of the crafting system, how you can craft different weapons. Which is kind of similar. I mean, the games are completely different, but Dead Space 3 introduced that kind of cool. Dead Space 3 was kind of a letdown based on the other two. I personally liked it, but it was kind of a letdown. But one of the highlights of it was the gun crafting system, and I feel like that's kind of comparable to Mother Gunship. Yeah. So that's available on Steam for like $20, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, pretty cheap.
Okay, other news: Black Ops 4. Which we all know is a little disappointing because there's no campaign. Personally, I played the games for the campaign. I just like them for the campaign. I don't know, I kind of like the Michael Bay-esque action that it kind of turned into, and I feel like they're competent shooters, so I always like them. But unfortunately, we're not getting that. We're going to be getting Blackout, which is the Battle Royale, which we talked about in the previous podcast. But this week they released the Voyage of Despair and IX trailer, which is all about the zombies. So I guess it started with a voiceover and narration of a girl. So it feels like it's going to be more character-focused, more narrative-focused, more like a traditional campaign, but not really. So I guess it starts off, the trailer starts off on the Titanic with zombies, which looked awesome. Then, at one point, they're like, oh, put down the spear. So they put down this giant spear, and they're instantly transported back to like a Roman Colosseum where they're fighting zombie tigers. Which was really cool. So there's like this time travel mechanic that you can use at certain points in the game. New weapons, and yeah, it just seems more cinematic and narrative / character focused. So it's looking pretty cool. I'm definitely gonna keep my eye on it. And I believe the beta starts on August 10th for PlayStation 4 owners because they have that marketing deal with Sony, which they originally had for Xbox. So I don't know, maybe coming later for Xbox. So yeah, movie releases. Unfriended Dark Web comes out today along with The Equalizer 2. Mission Impossible Fallout comes out next Friday, July 27th, which is going to be a huge blockbuster sellout. It's already being praised for its action scenes. They're actually saying not only is it the best Mission Impossible movie, it's also one of the greatest action movies, which they're really hyping that up. And I personally loved Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation. I thought they were incredible, so I can't wait for this one.
Fallout's one of those rare franchises that like gets better with each movie. Like
yeah,
I feel like
Mission Impossible.
Right? That's right. Like I feel like most like when a franchise gets stretched out this much, like it just becomes like diluted and whatever. But I feel like these movies, like they're just hitting their stride better and better and better. For sure.
It's kind of like Fast and Furious. They've been honestly getting better as they went on, and
they had like a low point, but honestly, I think with like Fast 5
turned it around.
That's when it turned it around. Yeah, because then they embraced their kind of absurdity and like, all right, we're gonna be more action films now. Right. And that was such a good choice because now they're like just kind of getting more fun to watch again. Right.
I mean, in the 7th one, the freaking cars jumped out of an airplane.
Oh my god!
So, it was pretty crazy. So a new indie horror movie coming out called Our House is releasing on July 27th as well. I looked up the trailer. I don't know if you got a chance to look it up, but it looks pretty cool. It's kind of like Flatliners, but not it doesn't look shitty. It was an interesting trailer. It's about these kids who are experimenting with bringing the dead back to life. And then this one kid loses his parents in a car accident, and he plans to bring them back to life with this machine that he built. But as he's trying to do that, he unleashes demons into the house, I guess. So it's a horror movie, but I mean it looks pretty cool. I mean I think it's going to be in select theaters and on demand. It's definitely not going to get a full release because it's just, I mean, I literally had to search for this thing. I wrote knockoff Flatliners. It kind of looks like that, but maybe it'll be a little better. August 3rd, this is an exciting release. Searching with Harold. What's his name? What's John Woo?
John Woo. Yeah.
It's been getting a lot of praise. It's kind of like an Unfriended type of filmmaking. It takes place on Skype and on a computer, which I feel like that could be exhausting. But I personally can sit through it for an hour and a half.
I think so too. Yeah.
So that looks exciting. Then August 10th is huge. We got The Meg, we got Black Klansman, we got A Prayer Before Dawn, and now 2 weeks earlier we have Slender Man, which is a whole nother topic that we're going to talk about today. It was originally August 24th, now it's August 10th, and I don't know what Sony's thinking. I read an article today saying that Sony is basically, they were originally trying to sell this movie to the streaming services because they don't want to deal with it, which is really, really upsetting because Slender Man could be the trailer. Did you see the first trailer?
I actually haven't seen the trailer yet.
The first trailer came out a couple months ago, and it's really creepy. It doesn't show a lot of the Slender Man, but it's a well-made trailer. And it came out in January, and we have heard nothing, and now it comes out in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
This is wild.
It's which is not a good sign. I'm gonna go in with no expectations when I see it, but it seems like Sony's also, feeding it to the Meg, because the Meg is supposed to be this, one of the last big blockbusters of the summer. And I don't. A Prayer Before Dawn and Black Klansman are both indie movies.
Yeah.
So, I'm still gonna see both of those, but I'm a little worried about Slender Man.
I agree, and I think like just being this late after the hype, that could be meaning like, oh, it's like, they just waited for it to die down so they could like kind of make it well, but I highly doubt that's the case, and I bet there was probably just a lot of production issues and legal problems that were coming along with it. So
rarely has a movie come out that with production issues that have been good.
Yeah.
So I'm a little worried about that. But anyway, Summer of '84 is another indie horror movie coming out on August 10th. It's where a kid in a small neighborhood believes that his cop neighbor is a serial killer. I saw the trailer. It's fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that that has any indication. People are entitled to their own opinions, but it looks pretty interesting to me. It seems like it's embracing that '80s formula, which personally I love. House of the Devil. I don't know if you've ever saw that.
Yeah.
That's like that was really cool, really effective, and embraced that '80s style, even though it came out 2000 sometime in this century.
Yeah.
Then on August 17th we have Alpha, which was that one movie where the kid dies, or he kind of dies.
It's like the kind of like the first domestication of dogs.
Right. It looked okay, but that movie has been delayed twice.
I'm also just scared because like I feel like whenever you have a movie like that, like I think back to that movie, what was it, 10,000 BC?
Oh God, yeah.
Like I feel like
that movie was a disaster.
And that was hyped up too. Like that was a big deal.
What's that? I'm sorry to interrupt. What's that scene in 10,000 BC where he was being chased by a giant ostrich? Do you remember that scene?
That was like the point of the movie where I just was like, okay, that's what I'm watching here.
Yeah, but what were you saying?
I just think it's very hard to make a good movie like about like very tribal like kind of like timelines like that.
Yeah,
you don't have much to work with unless you're going for a very kind of like artistic film, like with like
The Revenant.
Like The Revenant, The Revenant worked. But I feel like this movie is gonna be just kind of I don't know. Yeah, meh is the word I'm looking for.
I guess we have to wait and see. And also on August 17th, we got Mile 22, which is the action movie with Mark Wahlberg and the girl from The Walking Dead, who plays Maggie in The Walking Dead. It looks cool, like a cool summer action movie. And Iko Uwais, I'm definitely pronouncing his name wrong, but he was the star of the Raid action movies, which are Indonesian action films, and they're fantastic. Yeah, it's right there on my wall. That's him right in the center. But he's like a martial arts expert, and those films are just incredible. If you have not seen The Raid and The Raid 2, I highly recommend seeing both of those because they're probably my favorite action movies ever. But yeah, Mile 2, he's in that, and it looks like to be a fun action movie to kind of close off the summer. August 24th, we got the much anticipated Happy Time Murders with Melissa McCarthy and Puppets and the Muppets, which the first trailer looked really funny, but I know after there's been some legal issues with the creator of Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Or the people of Sesame Street, and the director turns out to be the son of the creator of Sesame Street, apparently. I have no idea. I have no idea how it worked. But basically they were suing them over the tagline, which was like no Sesame, all street, and so they're just like, fuck you, you cannot.
I can't believe that's his son.
I know, it's crazy. I read that. No, but it looks really funny. I hope it does really well. So I haven't heard any. I think that whole suing thing, the whole legal issue was like a month ago, maybe a little bit more. But looks to be really funny. Hopefully it's really funny, and I don't know. That's all we're gonna say about it. Then we have Kin, which is like an indie sci-fi movie where a kid finds this alien gun,
like a rifle,
and James Franco is after him.
Oh, yeah.
That closes the summer on August 31st. Looks cool. And then The Nun, the spin-off to the Conjuring series, which was she was the nun, or Valak was the main antagonist of the Conjuring 2. Terrifying, terrifying, like absolutely terrifying. And then the trailer looks pretty cool. And that opens on September 7th to open fall movies. So I am excited for that. Okay, so a couple more general news. Let's see here. So where are we? Oh, as I just find my notes. Here we go. Okay, so other news. Xavient, the Xavient developer, or the head of Xavient, Josh Van Velde, issued an apology on YouTube, basically saying he's sorry about the Culling 2. It maintained, or never, it's nothing like the original game that people fell in love with. So they basically shut down the Culling 2, and he said later this week, the Culling is going to go back to day one because people loved the Culling in the beginning, and then it kept getting updated and turned into something no one liked. So he's like, we're erasing all of that, we're going back to day one, and we're going to offer it to free to play. Just as, and which, you know, Culling 2 is a shit show, but I completely respect the developer for taking account for their actions.
I think that's such a rare thing.
Yeah.
Like, to like see a developer actually own up to it.
Right.
And, like,
right.
do a whole turnaround.
I think they have to do that also because they're an indie developer.
Yeah.
And like, let's, if it was EA, you know what I mean? They're not.
They wouldn't
do shit.
They wouldn't bat an eye.
Yeah, because they're fuckers. But that's EA. That's EA. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. I probably will download it just to see how it is.
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams' Overlord trailer debuted this week, and it premieres on November 9th of this year. It looks really cool. It kind of looks like Frankenstein's Army.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It does.
It does.
I was thinking, kind of like Nazi zombies.
Right.
Like,
so it looks cool, but it might be a secret Cloverfield movie.
Which is such a, like, that's an interesting thing. Like, I'll admit, I haven't seen a Cloverfield since the original.
You didn't see?
I didn't see
10
Cloverfield Lane.
You didn't see the
But
Cloverfield Paradox?
I did not either.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So I've heard, they have like a very big like cult following, and
Yes.
I want to like take an opportunity to watch them because I heard 10 Cloverfield Lane is fantastic.
It's very good, yeah.
Cloverfield Paradox, I've heard mixed things.
Yeah.
I've heard some people say it's like decent if you're a Cloverfield fan, but
Right.
if you're not, then it's like kind of meh.
Right. This isn't a spoiler, but the Cloverfield Paradox, I heard, was originally not supposed to be a Cloverfield movie, but
I did hear that as
literally
well,
the last 10 seconds of that movie made it a Cloverfield tie-in, and it felt rushed. I mean, the movie itself there was some cool parts, but it had some tonal issues. Like one minute it felt like a comedy, another minute it felt like an action sci-fi thriller, and another minute it felt like a horror. But I would say give it a watch, just for the canon. But it felt kind of tacked on, and hopefully, if this is actually a secret Cloverfield movie, they flesh it out more and give it. And J.J. Abrams has given us some great stuff.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
hopefully,
I like JJ.
hopefully looks good. Then we have It Chapter 2, which is now slated for release on September 6, 2019, with a full adult cast. And then Jessica Chastain actually released a photo either yesterday or today, and it was basically the girl actress of the first It, like handing over the red balloon to her, kind of like passing on,
passing the torch.
Yeah. So great cast. I know Bill Hader's on the cast as well.
He's playing Finn Wolfhard's character.
Right. Yeah. So I'm a little skeptical because the first one was just such a great mix. It was like Stand By Me meets Stranger Things meets like Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
It was like some horror movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought it was so great. Now, they have to really, the first one made such a great impression that if this one doesn't succeed,
I think it's also like, personally, I think the material is going to be a little harder to work with.
Right.
Because in the book, like when they're grown up, it's like the storyline's a little bit messier towards the end. Like in the beginning, like everyone remembers it for like the kids more so,
Right.
And like that's why Chapter 1 was like so well regarded and
funny.
stuff. Because they're funny, and it's like kind of like this relatable story, like growing up, and it has like a lot of like kind of those themes embedded. And Chapter 2 is kind of just like Stephen King was kind of saying like, I kind of have to wrap this up somehow, and then like they have to do that. So I think it'll still be good, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be as good as number 1.
Guess we'll have to wait until September 6th, but hopefully it'll be good. Oddly enough, Jurassic World Evolution, which is like the roller coaster tycoon or the of dinosaurs or the Jurassic World games, it's also like a spiritual successor to Jurassic World Genesis, which was the original one. It actually hit 1 million in sales in 5 weeks, which is really impressive for a game that got so-so
I was
reviews.
gonna say, yeah, like I heard nothing about that game really.
Yeah, I mean, good for them, but
Yeah.
you know, that's
Bravo.
kind of odd. So San Diego Comic-Con is going on right now, and James Wan, who's now the director of Aquaman, you know, you also know him for the Saw movies and the first 2 Conjuring movies. He says Annabelle 3, he announced Annabelle 3, and he said that it will take place inside the Warren home, and it will be like a horror version of Night at the Museum, which, you know, sounds pretty cool. I mean, Annabelle's one creepy motherfucker. So
I think that'll definitely work. I mean, that pitch, I think Night at the Museum might not have been the right
yeah, it's probably
choice of words.
Ben
but-
Stiller, Night at the Museum.
Dum dum. Yeah, I think that could be cool though, because I think that's gonna add like a lot of different kind of spook moments.
Yeah.
Like since there's like different artifacts and stuff,
Right.
kind of like it's even why I did like the it, because there's like he like transformed into different things and
Yeah.
like would like there's like different things freaking you out and
Right.
stuff.
And you know, Annabelle 1 was I feel an underrated horror movie. It wasn't perfect, but it was serviceable. And then Annabelle 2, which was directed by David F. Sandberg, who also made Lights Out, was actually it was a sequel that was better than it had any right to be. So hopefully Annabelle 3 will be even better. In other news, Neil Blomkamp wants to direct a game with mechs, and he solicited some advice on Twitter, which I have the tweet that he made. So it says, "I have a game I want to direct with mechs. How would one go about such an endeavor?" And then he tagged Machine Games, Arcane Studios, which was for what's it called, Dishonored.
Yeah.
And then ID Software, which is for Doom, Respawn, which is Titanfall, and IO Interactive. So that's pretty. Neil Blomkamp, I think, is incredibly talented, and he also made those. You know, he launched Oat Studios, which was awesome. I loved almost every single piece of content that they released. And he also released in Oat Studio this thing called Adam, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. It was like a it was
Adam
like an animated one.
Adam was good.
It was created on the Unity engine. So I mean, you know, he has the resources. He's incredibly talented.
I was disappointed to hear Firebase, like he wanted to crowdfund that, like, 'cause that was
did he
actually like
really?
the most popular one, but I don't think he got enough.
The
of
Vietnam
funds.
one, right?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I'm
Yeah,
surprised.
I think it like got shut down because he just couldn't reach the funds.
Oh shit, that sucks.
Yeah,
Personally, I like Zygote. I thought Zygote was
I thought
really
Zygote
good.
was my favorite. Yeah,
Yeah, and also he is set to direct RoboCop reboot.
another one.
Yep. So, but think about it this way: they made a PG-13 reboot in 2014, I think, and it was so fucking stupid.
It's terrible.
But Neil Blomkamp, great sci-fi director. Yeah, he's had some missteps like Chappie. But if anyone is to direct, you know, a RoboCop movie, I would give.
I'd want him to
pass it
to
him.
direct. I would hope someone else maybe could write it.
Yeah.
I think that's where Neil Blomkamp struggles the most.
Right.
I mean, visually he's brilliant. Like
Yeah.
he's just got like he's so good at like managing effects and like just creating a good atmosphere. But I think like his like Chappie suffered because its story was kind of ridiculous and the characters were kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like literally, Hugh Jackman's character was. I just like kept laughing, like, cause like
And the mullet.
like the mullet and like just like the kind of way he
Short
would like
shorts.
sneak around and like spy on them. He's like this like Australian guy. And he's just like, oi.
I love him. I think he's great, but Jesus.
I loved it in like a corny kind of sense.
Well, no, I mean, I love him.
Oh,
I think
Hugh
he's an
Jackman?
amazing
oh
actor.
my
Yeah.
God, I love that guy.
Yeah, so that's pretty funny. So yeah, other news. We got a lot of news this week, but Joaquin Phoenix, he is set to play the Joker in a 1980s Joker spin-off film origin story that's going to release on October 4th of this year, which is crazy. So that
This
means
year?
This year, 2018. It could be 2019. Maybe I wrote that wrong, but I think it is 2018 if I'm not mistaken.
But if they just signed him on,
Let's
like,
wait. No,
how-
there's no way. Hold
I was
on.
gonna say that would be
Joker.
the quickest production I've ever heard of.
Joker Phoenix. There's no way. It has to be 2019.
Jared Leto's getting his own spin-off as well.
Yeah, I see. There's too much of that. Too much. It probably is 2019. Sorry about that. It's probably a typo. Quentin Tarantino's new movie, or Charlie Manson movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, got moved up 2 weeks. It was originally August 9th, 2019, according to Variety, but now it is July 26th, 2019. So, I mean, it's not a huge push, but I love Quentin Tarantino. I love every single one of his movies, so we got to see it 2 weeks earlier. I'm not going to complain. Okay, this is actually a little depressing, but we'll bear through it. Super Data Research says that Fortnite has made over $1 billion in-game purchases, thanks to my brother, and I'm sure your brother and a lot of our little brothers with our parents' credit cards.
A lot.
Yeah, they're massively successful. We know that. Everyone knows that. No point in talking about it. Crackdown 3. When the fuck is that going to happen? Apparently February 22 or 22nd, 2019. Microsoft says they're done with delays, so they're fucked either way, basically.
Yep.
So, but whatever. It was originally announced in E3 2014. Let's see how it turns out. I love Crackdown 1. I love Crackdown 2. So if it sucks, fuck you. Then we have Remnant from the Ashes, which is a co-op shooter made by the same people who are making Darksiders 3, called Gunfire Games. It's basically a co-op shooter where you fight a new enemy called the Root, which look like tree monsters. It looks okay. And it kind of looks like the similar art style as Darksiders 3. Darksiders 3 comes out November 27th under the new developer Gunfire Games, not Vigil Games, and the publisher remains the same, which is THQ Nordic. You play a female character, Hela, or someone. Looks cool.
It looks interesting. Yeah, gameplay looks fun.
Those were never my type of games, but
they're like I feel like I played Darksiders 1. I liked it. Never played the second. The third looks definitely like smoother and a little more like polished. I think the older ones were
got less of a budget though,
bulkier. Yeah, but I think it'll be fine. Cool. I'm not expecting to the world though.
Yeah, we'll see that. So like we said last week, No Man's Sky is releasing on July 24th, the next update. And now they just announced this week that No Man's Sky is going to be receiving weekly updates. So this game is really taking a 180, and I'm happy to hear that. Good for them. It really shows that Hello Games cares about their game.
Yeah.
So we talked about that. Rick Grimes is now confirmed by Kirkman to exit in season 9. So I have watched every season of The Walking Dead. It's gone down in originality, and just writing is not good anymore. It's just turned into a show that it should have ended after season 5, honestly. It turned into something that it's not, and I'm a little depressed about that. But the Andrew Lincoln, the actor behind Rick Grimes, says that the season he's exiting, he's very upset about exiting, but they filmed two episodes that are 2 of his favorite episodes since the pilot. So
wow,
could be cool. Yeah. So he's exiting season 9. It's not the last season of The Walking Dead, but he is exiting. And if you guys don't watch that show, Rick Grimes is the main protagonist of the show. That he's been with us for 9 seasons.
Yep.
Not sure if he's gonna die. I feel like that would be kind of stupid if they just killed him off, but we'll see. So Shane Black's The Predator is not a reboot. He announced that it is not a reboot. He is still taking into consideration Predator, Predator 2, probably not AVP.
Who does?
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, Predator does look pretty cool.
I'm torn. I think it can be. I'm not impressed with the cast, or I don't know. The trailers haven't really gripped me, to be honest.
Why is Keegan-Michael Key in that movie?
Oh, I have no idea.
Why is he in that movie?
And his let's just say watch the trailer. He drops a joke in it, which I think is supposed to be bad.
What was the joke?
It's something about it was kind of like a Yo Mama joke, reminiscent of the original Predator, but just really terrible.
Forced.
Yeah. I don't know though. I'm not into the whole genetically modified predators, the GMOs and stuff. I think that trope has been done a lot, especially in sci-fi recently. I think it's Shane Black. He was in the original. He helped write the original.
Wait, original what?
Predator.
He did?
Yeah.
How old is he?
He was
He did. Oh, he starred in it, didn't he?
Yeah, he played Hawkins in the original.
Yeah.
And he helped write it.
Okay.
He was one of the co-writers.
Okay.
So I mean, granted, he's been there since the beginning, so you have to give him that credit. So
he's made good movies.
Yeah, yes, and I loved The Nice Guys.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
It just seemed a little weird in the trailer. It's from the creator of Iron Man 3 and The Nice Guys. It's what?
Yeah, yeah, right. It's very weird kind of movies to put under that belt. But I mean, I'm gonna see it obviously regardless. Yeah. But I mean, I also enjoyed Predators.
Yeah, that was
Adrian
good.
Brody one. I thought that was such a fun movie to watch, and like weirdly like in the spirit of the original movie too.
It was, yeah.
I hope this new movie doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
But again, we'll see.
I don't think it will. I mean, Keegan-Michael Key's in it.
That's true.
You know
That's
what I mean?
true.
I think personally, I don't really have a worry in my body about it. I think it's going to be really good. I trust Shane Black.
Mm-hmm.
From the trailers, I think it looks really cool. But I guess we got to wait and see.
I've loved the posters they've released.
Oh yeah,
The posters are so cool.
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so last piece of news. It came out today.
Yeah.
James Gunn is fired by Disney from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 after he wrote the script.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
So my initial
As I get a
thought
drink of water.
when I read that was, oh my God, Disney, like, you know, what are you doing? Why would you do that? Like, apparently it's like, yeah, they fired him because of tweets he wrote in the past. So my initial reaction was like against Disney, but then I went and read his tweets, and I'll be quite honest, I get it. Like, I get why they fired him over this, because like they said like it doesn't match Disney's image and stuff, and like it's not like he wrote something that was like slightly controversial.
They were pretty
He
controversial.
wrote some blatantly dark tweets.
Let me read some of that to you. Okay, so these are a bunch that were pulled up. I like it when little boys touch me in my silly place. Shh. Trying to maintain a semi-chub so that I'll look impressive in these photos. The Hardy Boys and the mystery of what it feels like when Uncle Bernie fists me. Hashtag sad children's books. The Expendables was so manly. I fucked the shit out of the little pussy boy next to me. The boys are back in town. My new film, Jerk Loose, a small town where beating off is illegal, and one high school kid jerks off in front of the others to show how fun it is. This may be the planned version of adopting a damaged 12-year-old girl who steals your money and accuses you of molesting her.
Oh my God.
The hotel shower scene is the weakest ever. Felt like a 3-year-old was peeing on my head.
Like,
tell your 3-year-old you're laughing, thinking of me fucking 3PO. He'll appreciate it when older. Like, these are some pretty fucked up shit.
That's fucked up, yeah.
And then Disney responded with, quote, the offensive attitudes and statements discovered on James's Twitter feed are indefensible and inconsistent with our studio's values, and we have severed our business relationship with him, said Walt Disney Studios chairman Alan Horn in a statement. So, wow.
Yeah.
That's all I could say.
I mean, yeah, Disney's always been very, very protective of their image. Like more than any other studio, I feel like out there. Like Disney is very like Disneyland, I don't know if you know, like there's just so many strict rules of like, you know, people can't break character. Like the mascots like Mickey and Goofy, like they cannot take their masks off even if they're having like a heat stroke. Like they'll just like they have like an emergency button and then like they'll have people come and like take them off. So Disney is very protective.
What if that emergency button isn't working? Are they just dead?
And then they die. And Disneyland is ruined for a couple kids, but
who cares? There's so many of them.
But yeah, so I totally get it.
Yeah.
And like some of those tweets were funny, but some of them were just not.
They're just weird.
They're just weird. And like this is not the kind of humor I expected from the guy who wrote Guardians of the Galaxy.
I know.
Like the Guardians of the Galaxy is like a very silly kind of humor with some like kind of like sexy jokes or whatever, but like that was just like literally 90% of them were like pedophilia. Yeah.
But you also have to think that he started his career by making shock films, so I could see that.
True. That
but
is true.
A lot of these tweets were very pedophilic in nature, and it was a consistent trend in these tweets, and that's why
it's not like it was a one-off thing.
If it was like, okay, here's a pedophile joke, here's a rape joke, here's a dead baby joke, then it would be like, okay, these are sick, but I can, they're not consistent. There's not a consistent trend that is revealing that you have some issues.
Especially for fucking Disney.
I know.
A kid's company.
Yeah. So maybe it was a good idea of Alan Horn to give him the boot. But That sucks because Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 are some of my favorite in the Marvel canon.
hands down.
And I mean, the script, from all I know, is still gonna be there, and I'm assuming he's still gonna get coined for the script, but he's not gonna be.
Just
directed.
keep an eye out for any pedophile.
Yeah, we really gotta. The freaking Star-Lord just looks at Baby Groot and just like, hey, you're growing pretty fast.
Oh God.
Okay, so that was all for general news, and now Joe, I'm going to pass you the torch, and you're going to take over this episode.
So
what are we talking about?
The rest of the episode, I feel like, so we kind of started out on a similar vein with some of the news. Recently, so there's a lot of horror movies coming out.
Right.
A lot of good ones, a lot of maybe iffy ones, but we'll see. So in that regard, you and I recently saw the movie Hereditary.
Yes, we did.
And we both had the same reaction leaving the theater. So we are both, for the record, we are both very big horror fans.
Yes.
Like huge horror fans. Like
Yes.
we've seen like,
opening day horror
Saw. We've seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
Hereditary was by far like the most draining film
Mm-hmm.
I've ever watched. Like I have never been more disturbed leaving a theater. Like just from the sheer and like I don't want to give any spoilers away. If you're a horror fan, please go see it.
It's been out for a couple weeks. We could talk a little spoilers.
Some spoilers. I won't give away the big moments that made me
Yeah.
nearly gag and want to leave the theater.
Yeah.
But it's like I kind of want to segue that into like what it is that made that movie so scary
Compared to other Hollywood.
and compared to other Hollywood films, and just like what in general makes like games and movies scary, like
Yeah.
especially compared today to like maybe say like 20-30 years ago.
Okay.
Because there's I think a very big difference in what scares people today and what
100%.
scares people
100%.
back then.
Because, I mean, we are the age of technology now, so that's why you see a lot of movies like Unfriended coming about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that I think that's a great discussion that we can go off of.
Yeah.
I mean, Hereditary was horrifying, but yeah, so the movie was just about 2 hours long. It included some of the most horrific imagery I have ever seen in a horror movie.
Literally.
It's part of the A24 horror movies, and they're known for The Witch and It Comes at Night, and they're known for critically praised, but if you go on CinemaScore, they're like D pluses. So there's a huge disparity between critic and user reviews, which isn't it's all about opinion. So A24 horror movies are kind of known for their slower pace, slow burn. Like some things are happening throughout the plot, and then like literally the last 20 to 30 minutes they just throw this shit in your face, and you don't even have time to process it because it's just so batshit crazy. But I want to ask you, because you're leading this discussion, what made Hereditary scarier? I know these are two completely different horror movies, but let's say 20 or fucking the most recent Friday the 13th movie or Cabin in the Woods. Like, what distinguishes? Let's distinguish it from an exploitation movie to something like this, where it's more of a slow burn type horror movie. What made it scary for you? Because we see a lot of horror movies, and we've seen some scary ones, but nothing that has quite shaken us
horribly. Yeah.
Yeah. It left us with such a big impression. So I want to talk about that.
So this movie in particular, like, for me personally, movies with like ghosts and demons and Jason Voorhees and whatever, they can be scary. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But there's always some level of disconnect you can put to that, because it's like, okay, it's not real. I mean, obviously some people believe in ghosts, but like you'll always know, even if you do like believe in those things, like it's a very kind of special occurrence, and like it's something you see a lot in like kind of like locked into movies.
Mm-hmm.
You don't generally experience that a lot in real life.
Right.
But what Hereditary did, which is very interestingly enough, kind of spoilers here, but it is a ghost movie. But what Hereditary does is it brings like a genuinely real terror into the movie. Like, I don't want to give too heavy of spoilers, but there's just this one scene that if you're like a kid in college or high school,
and you watch this movie, like it has like the most gut-wrenching kind of feeling of horror, of like just like kind of like a
Dread.
moment where this kid just like fucks up so hard, like, and like
Peter.
just this kind of idea that you just cannot do anything about it. And like essentially like also it delves into a lot of like mental illness, and like I mean the title's Hereditary, and it's kind of a play. It's kind of got like a double-edged sword to it. It's like there's a play on two words. So you have Hereditary in the plot line, which is like there's some ghostly things going on with the family. I won't say more
That was
than that.
passed down from the grandmother.
Passed down, yeah. But it's kind of a play on the idea of like how mental illness can be passed down through generations.
Right.
So you have the grandmother, and in the beginning they kind of talk about how kind of like secretive she is, and how she's very like protective of her daughter, but like kind of very alienated to everybody else.
It opens on her funeral.
Yeah. And like, yeah, it's a very weird funeral, and you'll find out why later. But and then you have like the daughter who she also
She's
has
great.
like she was
The
fantastic actress.
every actor and actress was amazing in that movie.
And like you just have the mom, you have the daughter who like I'm not sure exactly what it is, but she has like some developmental issues. And then you have the mother who has, I think, like just like she's like just incredibly stressed all the time, and it's just like taking very real things like that and turning them into like horrific scenarios surrounding them. And even when you tack on the ghosts, which to me I was a little like when they first kind of revealed that, I was like, oh, like I thought this was going somewhere else, but it's going this way. Yeah. But they actually do a great job of like tying them in together and kind of making it almost like a symbolic representation of mental illness and all of that. And I mean, so there's that regard. That's like one layer of why this movie was so scary. Another was just like how it was shot. Like
Ari Aster is very talented.
Like I feel like a lot of movies have the whole like, oh, like, you know, what you don't see is scarier. I totally agree with that for the most part. But this movie says, nah, fuck that. We're gonna show you we're gonna take a shot here.
There's nothing they don't show.
Yeah,
They
like,
show everything.
We're gonna have this shot linger for way longer than it needs to, because we want you, the audience, to suffer.
Just be so uncomfortable.
We want, like, it's like it wants you to feel like, oh my god, it wants you to feel the way.
It wants you to feel a part of the family.
Yeah, it really wants you to feel kind of just like what is happening in the mother's head during this one particular scene, because it shows this horrific like shot of something, and like it's just layered over with like the mother's screaming.
There's just
for
a
like,
lot of guilt.
yeah.
Oh god, it's so painful.
It's just it's agonizing.
And I think you described that in a perfect way, because what made that movie scary. So first of all, when that movie ended, I just wanted to go home and hug every single one of my family members.
Yeah.
And just it makes you appreciate your family, because it's just such a. I can separate that movie into two different movies. One, it could be a family drama in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it turns into something more supernatural. But what made it so scary is what you said. It was just so real. It was like a lot of horror movies. They're just, the problem is it's not very believable. Like
Exactly.
Jason Voorhees. Okay, there's been so many freaking movies with him. Nightmare on Elm Street, a monster that invades your dreams, and if you die in your dreams, you're dead in real life. Like they're cool. They can be scary, but this is something that's felt so believable, and there was just an overwhelming amount of this feeling of guilt, and like just you can tell that it was just tearing this family apart, and seeing them
you just watch
together.
it happen.
You watch this
before
family
your eyes,
grow apart and literally want to destroy each other. The mother starts to get images of her killing her son, or wanting to kill her son, or at least it's so emotional, and it leans more towards emotional horror. It attacks what it means to be a good human being, and I think that's why it is so scary. It's just, I mean, aside from the imagery, it just everything that happens. I mean, and it also helps that the movie is shot beautifully.
Yeah.
The pacing is for me perfect. I know a lot of people don't like that slow burn horror, but even though the slow burn, the shit kind of happened more towards the last 30 minutes, but the last 30 minutes were still so good because it left.
It's like it's worth it.
It left very little questions, but then again, there are questions.
Exactly.
And that's what I love. Like, It Comes at Night, I thought it was a good movie, but I thought it stumbled a little bit with, you never really saw what it was, which can be fine, but I want to be able to see a little bit more. Like, it was shot beautifully, but I didn't see enough. And I think that's what made Hereditary so real. Well, I think that's what made Hereditary so scary, rather, because it was just so real. And I remember when the movie was over, me, you, and your brother were just sitting there silent. The entire theater was silent, and I'm pretty sure everybody sat down for a good 5 minutes after the movie to process what they just saw. Maybe gave a little chuckle out of how ridiculous. Because some people just,
some were crying, some were chuckling.
There were people crying in our theater. That because it attacks something that is scary to everyone. That's it. It attacks family. It is literally scary to every single one of us because we love our mom, we love our dad. Everyone has someone that they love, and it attacks that. Like, it gives you what if scenarios. What if you were responsible for your mother or your father, your like misfortune, their death? Like, what if you were responsible for that?
It's a very punishing movie.
Yeah.
Like, it really doesn't, like, I feel like a lot of horror movies in general have a sense of like, character did something, but they're gonna redeem themselves, right? This movie like just was absolutely like punishing for like the character's mistakes in it. And like it really like it looks into like the darker side of people and just like how everyone like like people are generally like they could be good, but this movie kind of shows like even if you are like everyone's got like embedded trauma from whatever, or like everyone has like some sort of
family history
that they carry with them regardless of whether they really are aware of it or not. And it kind of just like highlights that, but just makes it makes that be the controlling factor of the characters rather than the like positive like wanting to overcome it. It makes characters like act on their negative compulsions and like almost like the curse that they bear. So it was just
give it a watch. It's great.
It honestly like I loved it because like it was just that dark and that horrifying. Like I was like, wow, that was the best. Like that was the scariest horror movie I've ever seen.
And the best.
Yeah. On that note, like kind of like related, like what would you say the scariest game you've ever played?
So see, watching a movie and playing a game is different because you're controlling your actions in a game. So I feel like even if a game, even if a game isn't that scary, you're still playing it and it can be 10 times more scary. So personally, for example, Five Nights at Freddy's, not that scary if you think about it, because it's just kind of like, you're just moving your cursor around.
Much,
You can't do much, but
also the fan base
the fan base is like little kids,
story,
but that's different. But when it first came out, I was genuinely scared by it. When I was watching someone play it, I wasn't all that scared.
Right.
When I was playing it, it's a completely different story. But you asked me what I think my scariest games are. I played first of all, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, low key is one of the it's like the Hereditary of video games.
I agree. I wouldn't call Senua a scary game, but it's disturbing.
Yes.
It's a very, again, because you're just watching, and like you're controlling the character Senua, and you're just watching her suffer, and like you can't do much about it.
What would you classify the genre as? Because I've been streaming it on Twitch recently, and there are some genuinely scary moments in the game. I would definitely classify it as a horror action game.
Yeah, horror like dark fantasy, I guess. Like, because there's a lot of action moments too. Like, there's a lot of like it's. For context, to anyone who doesn't know, so Senua's Sacrifice is a game where you play as a woman going through the like the Norse mythology version of hell to like save your
I guess your boyfriend's
The
like soul.
Yeah.
Or your lover's soul. But what makes this game very interesting compared to other games is how the developers of this game, who developed it again? What was
I think
their
Ninja Theory.
name? Ninja Theory, that was it. They studied a lot of like psychosis patients, and
Oh, did they really?
yeah. So a lot of the like essentially Senua has like a curse on her, but this curse is like a representation of what like schizophrenia and psychosis is. So a lot of the things she experiences in the game are like reminiscent of the real thing. So like you'll play this game and you'll hear like voices pretty much throughout it. Like,
And they could be helpful in combat too.
Exactly. Like they'll be helpful voices sometimes, but they're just kind of like whispering. So like I'll recommend you play this game with headphones
Oh yeah.
because it gives you that full kind of 360
Right.
audible experience. But this game, yeah, it's very hard to watch at parts because like
You have to play it in parts. I separate it, but I can't play more than an hour because it's so stressful.
it is a stressful game.
Yeah.
It's grisly because you're just like
Wait,
it's just like
what did
yeah,
you say?
it's grisly.
Grizzly?
Gristly.
Okay. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. We can even do an entire podcast on Hellblade if we want to.
I would totally be down for that.
But yeah, so other horror games that I would say are really scary, the Amnesia series, just because
Yeah.
their subject matter, it kind of introduced this genre of horror games where you're defenseless and you can't hurt the enemy that's coming after you. So it makes it all the more scary. So Amnesia: The Dark Descent was very scary. Personally, I found myself I have more of a liking to Machine for Pigs, just because it was a very cool spin-off of the Industrial Revolution in the United Kingdom. It was just very, very cool. It had some really sick and twisted imagery. Yeah, so the Amnesia series is definitely scary. I'm trying to think. Dead Space series was also just Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2 are just terrifying, honestly.
yeah.
Sick, terrifying games.
played-
Great games, but
Fantastic games. I played them way too young.
it came out when we were in
out when in
2008.
2008, so 10 years ago. I was
holy
12.
shit.
And I remember my brother was like, looking up stuff online. He's like, dude, we're getting this game. And I'm like, okay. And then, we play it and like he's like, oh, it's like the flood from Halo. And I'm like, oh, cool. And it was not. I mean, it is like sort of like, obviously I'm sure, listening to this, you're like, what Dead Space is, but it was horrifying.
Yeah, as a 12-year-old kid.
It's a lot. And like it like
Not even for a 12-year-old kid, for a grown man.
for anyone,
scary,
like
yeah.
honestly playing those games, like that game does a great job because that game makes you feel very helpless. Like I love the idea that it's like, I mean, they kind of lose this as they go through the series, but in the first game it's like you use tools. Like you don't use guns technically, like you're like an engineer, and so you're just picking up tools and like
Well, you can
dismembering.
upgrade to get more weaponry, but
Right.
you're right. In a sense, you start.
But
out
it
with
starts
an
out that
engineering
way,
cutting tool, yeah. Yeah, no, definitely a very, very scary series that needs to be played by horror fans. I think one of the scariest games, unfortunately, that will never be a game. Playable teaser, Silent Hills.
Yep. I was gonna mention that as well.
Very, very scary. If for those of you that don't know, it's just a playable teaser about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, where you walk around in a continuous loop in this dark house on a stormy night. You get some exposition through voicemails, some pictures, and every time you go through the door, it leads you to the exact same place, but it's just a little bit
Slightly
different.
different,
A little
yeah.
bit different. And as you continue to go through, it gets more and more twisted and satanic. There's red lights. There's dead bodies in a fridge.
Babies screaming in
fetal,
fridges, yeah.
Fetal unborn babies in bathroom sinks.
like-
just so scary. And
Yeah.
it was kind of uncanny in a sense because the graphics were so
They
realistic.
were fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, so
I remember playing that game for the first time, like, I think I was in freshman year in college. Or no. It
right
was the
before,
summer.
The summer before.
It was the summer. I remember you came over and showed me it.
Right.
And we played it, like, during broad daylight, and I was still horrified.
Yeah, it's scary.
Something about that game that, like, I think was so good was just how simple it was. I think when it comes to horror games, especially, like, the simpler the better.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you, like, Dead Space, like, eventually gets less scary because it's like,
Turned into an action game.
yeah,
honestly.
and you upgrade your health, your ammo, weapons. You have
an arsenal of weapons and all these things. So it's like you're kind of have some sense of control. Whereas PT, you literally just the only control is to like walk, and yeah, it's just on this continuous loop. So you just don't really know what to do. I mean, once you figure out what to do, it's like, it's obviously gonna be not as scary, but it also just has like so many subtle things in it that are so unnerving,
and
like
secrets too. There's a lot of things you can play it several times and still not find everything that's available.
It's very randomly generated. Like you can run into like the ghost.
Yep.
Sometimes, and then sometimes you don't even like really run into her, which is like there's always that sense of unpredictability.
Right.
And one thing I also like playing that game again, like I just noticed how like this house is terrifying.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't make much sense. It's just very long, narrow hallways, but like you think about it, and it has like this kind of like normal house feel, but at the same time you're like, this is not a normal house. Like so there's just something like Kojima's just so good at taking something normal and making it slightly off enough to make you very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you can only access 2 doors in the entire teaser: the bathroom and the door to basically reset the entire room. And then sometimes you can't open the bathroom. I remember my first playthrough, I saw that the bathroom was closed the first time, so I went around again. It was creaked open. I decided to go peek inside. Someone inside, a demonic lady, looked in my face, closed the door, screamed, had to turn off the game, but eventually I went back to it. And then I kept going around, and then the door was eventually open. Then I went inside, found a flashlight, went to leave, it closed on me. Then I opened it again, went back around, the door was open again, I went inside, it closed on me, and I found a unborn fetus inside of the sink. So there's just a lot of memorable moments in that game. Yeah, so you cannot get it, unfortunately, on the PlayStation Store anymore, unfortunately. Yeah. But you can watch it on YouTube because
I was very sad because my brother had it downloaded for such a long time.
They took it off the download too?
Well, what happened was my brother did a full kind of wipe of his PlayStation, and then he didn't realize that PT was gone, and then he tries to download it and he can't now. So it's still like the icon's still there, but we can't play it.
Right.
So it's just
right. Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, but you can always watch it on YouTube if you guys get interested in it. I'm trying to think of other scary games. I mean, Slender Man is scary in there's also, they made like an Xbox reboot or the PlayStation Slender Man: The Arrival, which was more of an actual game. What else was scary?
I remember a long time ago. Now, I'm not too familiar with this series, but the Secure, Contain, Protect, the SCP series.
Okay, I never played that.
I played SCP-087-B. I don't know how I remember that, but it kind of reminded me of PT a little bit.
Okay.
You essentially are in this kind of like facility, and it's just a continuous staircase, like a spiraling staircase downward. And then sometimes you'll hit a hallway, sometimes you'll hit like kind of some like split ends or like kind of big corridors.
Okay. It's
all completely dark, very scary ambient music. And yeah, it's just like the lower you go, like the creepier things get. Yeah, very PT-esque actually.
Can you defend yourself? Is there a way to?
No, it's literally just like another walking simulator.
So what haunts you? What's the thing that is after
there's kind of this ghost thing that like sometimes like you'll be walking down a hallway and like everything gets a little brighter for a second and you see a man down the hallway with like a weird smiley face.
Oh god, I hate that.
And the lights turn off and they turn back on and he's a little closer.
Oh, fuck that, man. I'm not playing that shit. Fuck that.
And there's also sometimes you'll just be looking in the dark and you'll just see like a pair of eyes and a smile just kind of pop up and he's like and then he's like gone. That was a scary game.
No way.
There's a whole series of that. It's like a very like big internet like trend. Like there's like a whole like there's like all these forums for it. And,
really?
Like I don't really follow it, but I played that game and I thought that was a lot of fun.
That's cool. Two other games one game that's a series that I thought of. Outlast.
Oh,
truly
Outlast,
terrifying.
Yeah.
Personally, I just did a playthrough. I did a playthrough of the first one not too long ago. I personally think the second one is scarier than the first.
Oh, hands down.
You think? Did you play through both of them?
I finally beat the second one.
Okay.
Finally beat, literally like a month ago. I had downloaded Outlast 2 for like 2 years ago. Played it to the very I played it to the end, but I kind of got like
I got like, school came up and stuff, so I didn't have
Yeah.
time. So then I was like talking to my friend. He's like, "Oh, you're at the very end." I'm like, "Oh," so I did it and I
With
beat
the
it.
blood rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was even past that. I was literally like in the mines.
You were in the school. Oh, you okay?
I was in the mines running from the
Okay.
the woman.
Right.
And
I fucked that lady.
oh, she was gross. Yeah.
She stabs your groin.
Yeah.
Fucking rips it off. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, Outlast is it's kind of like the Amnesia games. You're defenseless. You can just run. But the twist is you have a camera at all times that you need to continually repower with batteries, and that's how you see in the dark. You basically put on the night vision of the camera. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, record. It's cool. It's a cool mechanic. But the first one takes place in Mount Massive Asylum. So you can just imagine how crazy and creepy that is, where people are all deformed. And it's honestly, in my opinion, it's a classic. It's a great game to watch people stream on Twitch.
Yeah.
But Outlast 2 takes place in like this, I think it's Arizona.
Yeah.
And you're kind of running away from a satanic cult or an apocalypse cult. I think that the apocalypse
It's fun.
is going to happen.
There's two cults actually.
Oh,
there's a
okay.
satanic cult and there's a hyper like apocalypse cult.
All right.
So in the beginning you're running from like the apocalypse cult and then you're quote unquote rescued by the satanic cult.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird like that and you're just like kind of running from these
In the
two.
middle of it, yeah.
Yeah.
You're looking for your wife because you get into a helicopter accident.
Mm-hmm.
But like what Outlast 2 did that was also really creepy. Personally, I find schools at night to be just oddly eerie,
Oh yeah.
and they kind of they
This
go
game capitalized on that.
yeah, they go into the root of the protagonist's kind of psyche and show a story of how when he was younger with his wife, they had a friend, I believe her name was Jessica,
Yeah.
and it was a Christian school, and it tells a story of sexual abuse by the priests,
Yeah.
and they kind of use the priest who's a disgusting man as a metaphor, and kind of creates this metaphor out of this demon that's constantly chasing him around. And you go in and out from the cult, from Arizona back into the school, and it's combined with the look of the game. The visuals are insanely impressive. It's very scary. There's pictures of all these priests or teachers smiling. It's just very
unnerving.
very
Yeah.
unnerving, and that's why I like that game. And again, there's no way to defend yourself, which is even more scary. But yeah, one downside to the games were the trial and error. Like, where do I go? Where do I go? Oh, I fucking died. Okay, let's try that again. I died again. But besides that, the game is terrifying. The story gets better from Outlast 1 to Outlast 2. There's a lot of hidden secrets in there. There's a lot of notes you can pick up and read to give you more of the lore. Definitely top tier horror games.
Yeah.
Definitely top tier. And Red Barrels is working on a third one, and they just released
nice.
1 and 2 on the Switch. So if you have the Switch,
Highly
you
recommend.
can play that.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be less scary on your little pad instead of a big screen TV. But yeah, those are basically some highlight games that are really scary. I think what really distinguishes a horror game from a horror movie is that the interactivity. You're playing as a protagonist, so you're involved. You're immersed into this
You're
horror.
involved
You're
in like,
basically
the choices. Yeah.
you're basically in the horror movie. And that's what I think is
Which I love. Yeah.
so cool. And it's definitely a genre that you got to be a real horror fan to get through Outlast 1 and Outlast 2. There were moments where I had to stop playing Outlast, but like it's so addicting in a sense when I stop playing it. I'm like, oh god, you know what? I'm such a pussy. I should go back in there and just beat it. Just go, because I want to see what happens in the story. But yeah, I think that's
about it.
That's about it. I think that's good.
That's a wrap.
I think that's a wrap. But yeah, so check out some of those games that we were saying, guys. So this is podcast number 2. We are Screen Spice, Joe and Nick, and we are going to be uploading this to YouTube tonight. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be back every week. So we'll probably be back next Friday, whenever you get back
next
from the shore.
Friday we'll have some more hot spicy news for you. So
spicy news.
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah. So thank you, guys. Adios.